our players who have fought really hard to get to this spot.
They're both really strong players. I don't think this game's anywhere near over.
We are ready to get this match underway.
Hello everyone and welcome to War Machine Weekend 2014. We are here with the preliminary rounds for Iron Gauntlet. I'm DC, the development manager at Privateer Press, and here with me is Will Schick, the director of brand and business development.
Hey DC, how you doing?
Pretty good, having a great show so far.
Yeah, we just kicked things off today. It's crazy to think that we've been up since like 8, but we're getting ready to have ourselves a great Iron Gauntlet event so far, and we have a very exciting first matchup actually to start things off.
Yep. We have Colin Hill playing Circle.
Yep.
He has a Morvana 2 list, a Chromac list, and a Grail list. He chose Chromac for this particular game.
Yep. And he's going to be playing against Chuck Ellswick. Chuck has he's playing Signar, one of his go-to factions. However, his lists are, I find, like fascinating. He's playing all Tier 4 theme lists.
Yep.
He's got a Lieutenant Kane list, a Lord Commander Striker list, which is the one he chose for this matchup, and he's got a Constance Blaze list, all at Tier 4. So some interesting army choices and decisions here. I'm excited to see how this plays out with them. Our players are already in the midst of deployment and getting ready to go here, as you can see them getting set up. And they're going to be playing Outflank today for the first scenario. You see those zones with the War Machine Weekend brand slapped on them on the table there.
In the Outflank scenario, as we know, you can gain 1 point if you control one of those zones by having models there when your opponent does not, or 2 points if you dominate the zone by having your Warcaster or Warlock in the zone when your opponent does not have any models contesting that zone.
Yeah, it's a great scenario for these two lists specifically because these are both lists that really want to run straight at you screaming and murder your face with swords and lightning bolts to a lesser extent. And this Outflank really pushes you towards that center position. So
I'm anticipating a lot of face murder in this game.
A lot of face murder seems to be pretty likely. We see Chuck setting up. So Chuck has Lord Commander Striker. He's got a Squire and Old Rowdy in Lord Commander Striker's battle group. He's then got Catherine Lattimore as his only mounted solo, even though the Theme Force does provide an additional FA to Storm Lances. Chuck did not take any Storm Lances. Instead, he decided to max out on Storm Blades, so he's got 2 Storm Blade captains, granting him Pathfinder, which is going to be huge, as well as the ability to move through his models that are also Storm Knights. He's got his 2 Storm Blade units. Each unit has a UA. One of them is free from the Theme Force itself. One unit has 3 Storm Gunners and a Stormclad. The other unit has 2 Storm Gunners and a Stormclad. Both Stormclads getting a point discount as well. So he's got a decent amount of points that are coming in for free thanks to the Theme Force, as well as an extended deployment zone of 2 extra inches from that Tier 4.
And that is a lot of points in jack-marshaled models
Yes.
and added models to the units. There's a lot riding on those Stormblades really getting the job done.
Yeah, it's a very aggressive list. It's a pretty straightforward list. I'm excited to see how Chuck commands it in this matchup. Again, I think he's got a fairly favorable bout going in for him. He can overcome the trees from Colin's Sentry Stones using Pathfinder. He's really just got to watch out for that Lightning Strike behind out of line of sight. But model count-wise, Chuck definitely has an advantage. He's got a lot more troopers on the table.
Well, and it is interesting that we've got 2 Stormclads and Old Rowdy facing off against 2 Warpwolf Stalkers and Getterics. Kind of got the heavy hitters of Signar versus Circle here. The battle group for Chromac includes those 2 Stalkers and Getterics, also includes a Gorax, and Chromac has a Druid Wilder as well. Colin's got 1 Gallows Grove for if he needs to arc a rift or something. He's also got 2 units of Shifting Stones, one of which has the Stonekeeper unit attachment. 2 units of Sentry Stones and Mannequins. As you mentioned, their ability to provide forests is likely to have an impact on the outcome of this game. And then he's also got a unit of Tharn Bloodweavers.
So overall, a solid matchup here, and against 2 great players that we've seen before at these final tables. both in terms of Masters events and Iron Gauntlet. In fact, Colin was here last year on the live stream at the 2 final games for the Iron Gauntlet, and was a blast to watch play against his 2 opponents. He's a very canny general, and he knows his circle army very well. Take that against Chuck, who has a reputation, I think, for kind of coming out of left field with things and surprising the pack a lot. He does a lot of innovative things in terms of learning his lists and kind of throwing things out there that you wouldn't expect to see. I don't know that many of us came to this event expecting to see certainly 3 Signar lists at Tier 4.
Or over the course of his lists to see 6 Jack-marshaled Warjacks.
Yes, I mean, talking about his Lieutenant Kane list, that was the one that had us both talking right away. You've got Lieutenant Kane at Tier 4, but he's got 2 Arcane Gunmage units, one of which has the UA with 2 Hunters, and the other of which has the UA with 2 Defenders. So a massive amount of points in Jack Marshall Jacks, which is something that you don't typically see. Our game is kicking off here, and you see Chuck taking the first turn here, advancing his Stormblades forward. That looks like to be the unit with the 3 Storm Gunners.
I believe this is just his Theme Force advance move, possibly.
There's no advance move in the Theme Force. Huh. Instead, it's the Elite Cadre ability from Lord Commander Striker.
Gotcha.
So this would be his 5-inch advance from that Elite Cadre ability. Allowing him to get a little extra board position, plus that 2 inches puts him pretty far upfield overall.
Yep. Because I do believe that Colin is the first player here. So now that the advanced moves are complete, we begin the game proper with Colin's turn 1. We see Colin with his shiny Iron Gauntlet Fury there.
He earned from last year's finals event for qualifying at Lock and Load. Seems like just yesterday we were at and watching the Ultimate War Machine and Hordes tournament, really. Like, great plays, exciting games, a whole day of games, some amazing games overall. It's a fantastic time. It's fun to see those things showing up at the table. I know at Gen Con, Keith was using his Iron Gauntlet dice that he had gotten, because the players got dice as well. Yep. And you could hear those things roll across the entire hall. They're so heavy.
So we've got one of the units of Sentry Stones has moved forward here, taken a more forward position. Nobody turned into a tree, however.
Colin's likely going to be careful with using those trees. He's not going to have a lot of opportunity to leech focus from Chuck's army.
Right. I mean, Devour Magic might give him a point here and there, because those Stormclads potentially will have one on them, depending on what they're doing. But most likely, Devour Magic will be of little use to him in this particular matchup.
Yeah, though those Stormclads will be getting a free one from their accumulator. Chuck's a smart enough player. You'd expect to see him use that for the run, just to burn it off.
Right.
And not give him the free Fury.
We have the Bloodweaver unit running up into position. Their Dispel Blood Magic ability possibly going to come in play for him, even if it's not in this matchup, in this list throughout the day, by being able to strip off enemy spells when and where he needs to.
Yeah, Lord Commander Striker, unlike Commander Striker, not an upkeep guy. Doesn't really throw out a whole lot of stuff that Dispel is really going to affect.
Yeah, unlikely to make a huge difference in this particular game, but those Bloodweavers, it's nice to have that ability on tap on any model in the unit to be able to just strip off enemy magic. And
absolutely. Bloodburst is another one that you definitely like to see when you're facing a lot of infantry.
Yeah. Stormblades, not necessarily ideal for bloodbursting due to their armor, but definitely an option. And then also just being able to give the Bloodweavers an additional die of damage against the Stormblades is what I'm expecting to see the most if those two units wind up crashing into each other. The Warp Wolf Stalker is using the Prowl Warp and has ran up into the trees.
We also had the Sentry Stones shift and the Stone Keeper actually use Stone Form. That was right before the Stalker.
Geterix now also running up into position.
Using Hyper Aggressive, which probably won't come into play next turn, but good to get in the habit of using it.
Yeah, it's one of the marks of like kind of the different experience levels of players when they always remember to use the little abilities, even if it doesn't seem all that important immediately. The possibility that it comes into play and gives you an advantage you wouldn't have had otherwise, it's always worth throwing up that Stone Form to minimize the damage from an errant AoE or putting up Hyper Aggressive just in case. The final Stalker here is also choosing Prowl for its warp and is running forward.
Kind of weaving through those ruins there.
The Druid Wilder also runs forward.
Colin kind of looking at the different lanes right now.
And Colin moves on to his Warlock. Chromac the Ravenous here is activating. He's
Wild Aggressions, the Stalker behind the trees. And Inviolable resolves a unit of Shifting Stones, the blue ones, which has the UA with it, the Stone Keeper.
so between Stone Form and Inviolable Resolve, he's going to be pretty armored up there.
See the Gorax, Rile, and run, or just run, excuse me, and then the Gallows Grove looked like just shifted forward to get into the toe in the trees there. So a fairly conservative turn overall for Colin. He's just moving into position. He didn't go as far forward as he might have chosen to do. Interestingly enough, against a Signar list, he's not really facing down a whole lot of gun threats.
No.
There's really no range that he has to worry about on that first turn. So he could have played a little more aggressively there, watching out for the assaults, but Stormblades, unless they're trying to shoot a stone, typically not the most accurate
Right.
of soldiers.
Well, but with the Storm Gunners, it only takes one good hit to then convert the rest of the unit into hits.
So we see Lattimore running straight through the chess clock on the side there. They moved the clock off of the table for a second so that she could make her way on the flanking side. Great position for her right now. Able to threaten a lot of stuff on Chuck's next turn or force Colin to divert resources to deal with it.
Yeah.
See Striker casting Deflection. Interesting choice based on the fact that Colin doesn't have a whole lot of ranged threat either. But if you got the focus, might as well use it. It could come into play.
Yeah, it could matter if Chromac happens to
Rift.
He does have that Gallows Grove, but I'm not sure everyone's going to be in deflection range.
No,
Chuck's taking a much broader front than Colin is.
Yeah, even with the Squire's extra 2 inches, it's definitely unlikely he's going to catch Lattimore, who seems to be a good rift target if Colin wants to try to deal with her without putting too many resources that way. So we see Old Rowdy ran up after Striker, staying in base to base to grant him that sweet defense bonus, as well as the no knockdown that bond shares, that pair shares with each other, thanks to his affinity. See the Stormblades advancing, not running, taking a more measured approach as well.
Well, he knows that he's got a bit more range than the Bloodweavers do. So taking advantage of that and contesting the zone, but not fully committing to it yet at this point.
See a shot from the Storm Gunner at one of the mannequins.
Just barely missed.
And we see another shot. The other mannequin taking a shot.
Ooh.
So it hits. It does hit. It turns into an AoE thanks to the standard bearer's ability, the UA. which then catches another mannequin and destroys it on the blast damage.
Bloodweaver.
Bloodweaver, excuse me. Bloodweaver.
Direct hit on the mannequin, explodes. Nice AoE action. Gets one of the 6 Bloodweavers.
Mm-hmm.
Got the proxy bases coming into play here to make sure there's room.
Stormclad using its free focus, it looks like, to run. Slides through the gap there that they checked to the proxy base. Got Chuck moving on to the other Stormclad, it looks like, or Stormblades. See Striker measuring his control area there, trying to keep all of those Stormblades as well within deflection as he can. See the blades advancing forward. Another check for deflection as Chuck positions his Stormblades. So we've got a check for the Storm Gunner now, shooting at another mannequin. Hits. It's POW 14, AoE 3, but the AoE won't catch anything. So destroys a mannequin. Next Storm Gunner shoots at the mannequin behind the wall, which now has cover. Misses. Takes another shot with the last Storm Gunner. Misses as well. So the cover proving to be enough to block the Storm Gunner's shots at that last mannequin, although the one that was not in cover quickly removed. We have the Stormclad, excuse me, moving forward.
The mannequins are another reason you might want deflection up. While they don't have the most accurate attack, their POW 10 magical splinter bursts on the spray could catch a few Stormblades and are more likely to break armor without the deflection than with.
Especially with the position that Chuck has put them in. He's got a couple of good spray lanes for Colin to try to utilize if he can advance forward. So Chuck's final activations were to move up his Stormblade captains and then pass the turn over to Colin. Colin begins the turn by leeching all of his fury. He upkeeps Warpath. It doesn't look like he's going to upkeep Inviolable Resolve. Colin kind of considering to himself here.
Well, he's got some options this turn for sure.
See the players discussing a couple of things over the table. Colin asking for some clarification on threat ranges. Usually when you see this kind of look on players' faces, it means they're going to try something a little risky, or they're considering trying something a little risky.
Well, he's got plenty of forests on tap to have Prowl further up the field. That could prove helpful a little bit on limiting some of what the Stormblades do, but with Assault, don't know if the stealth is really going to come into play a whole lot. It's more likely that those walls are going to come into play. As long as a Storm Gunner doesn't connect against that mighty defense 18, there's really not much to worry about from the ranged threat of those Stormblade units.
So Inviolable Resolve did get dropped, as did Wild Aggression, so Chromac only upkeeping Warpath. Colin doing another control area measurement. Really looking at Striker there. Seems like he really wants to get in there, but the leap itself isn't going to be enough.
No,
not
it
based
looks
on
a
that
bit
measurement.
far.
Even with the Warpath's additional inches, I don't think Chromac's close enough. Although it's hard to tell with Striker behind that. It's a different angle on the table there. You can kind of see where Striker is in relation to Chromac and Old Rowdy.
Well, the Warpath is just for the beasts, so yeah, I don't see any way that Chromac's going to get put into the action this turn. So Colin is talking with the judge about what he's considering here. So with Warpath being upkept, Colin was talking about potentially having the Shifting Stones teleport the Stalker, doing other things during his turn to trigger a 3-inch Warpath move. And then even though that Stalker can't actually advance this turn, it's then translated quite a few inches across the battlefield, and it has reach, so attempting to kill Striker.
With the double port from the Shifting Stones. And he's apparently going to cost him a Getorix, is what he just said to Chuck. But he's willing to try it.
It's possible. Oh, it's Getorix, not the Stalker that he's going to use for the higher power.
I think he could. It sounds like it. Like it.
Makes sense since they both have reach. I just thought he had pointed to the Stalker.
I think he did, and then I think he changed his mind.
It's a good change to make. Why not take the the higher?
If you're going to go for it,
higher power and higher accuracy, both well worth it.
See Chromac advancing forward to start things off. You see an Arc of Wild Aggression, or casting Wild Aggression on Getorix. So
boosted melee attack rolls at Mat 7 so far. Probably going to get the Gorax involved to take it up to an effective Mat 9 with boosts.
So we see a teleport of Getorix.
From first Shifting Stone unit here.
So we see the placement there with the proxy base to make sure the line of sight, everything's being obeyed.
Well, making sure that the area between the stones will still clip the back of that base to get them farther forward.
This is the second one. And I think the Gorax already advanced and put Primal on Getorix.
All right, so Getorix is at Wild Aggression, boosted melee attack rolls, Primal for effective Mat 9, and it's already up to a effective power plus strength of 19 on its Great Axe. Assuming he warps for strength, and why wouldn't he? It's going to be all the way up to a 21, so that will definitely be some serious damage with high accuracy. It now comes down to triggering that Warpath.
Striker, though, is no slouch, especially base to base with Old Rowdy, since he's looking at Def 18.
Yep.
So you're still talking about a decent amount of miss potential without boost.
Yeah, needing 9s on 3 dice. Not automatic by any means, but more probable than not, certainly.
And with the high POW, hitting at a pretty freight train-like level there. So we have the Blood Weavers.
Now, some of these Blood Weavers are charging, and some of them are running to get into a position where they can take advantage of their gang ability.
So we see the first one attacking.
And Colin just noted that he would have missed that attack, but that with the gang bonus, it converts that into a hit, uses Blood Spiller, so he's rolling a whopping 4 dice on the damage roll. Can't, well, it's possible to not kill the target, but...
See Warpath trigger, which is what he needed.
Yep.
Getorix getting within 2 inches. And Colin remembering to make the other attacks with the Blood Weavers, even though he's anxious to get onto that Getorix.
Getorix warps for strength as expected, swings his axe, and he misses that 9, just as you predicted there. I was wondering for a moment if Colin would try to throw Old Rowdy to the side to deny Striker his defense bonus, but the amount that would use versus the amount of benefit it would give.
So instead, he just used the bite attack against Rowdy because that was the only way he was in range, and he did 2 whole points to Old Rowdy.
Yeah.
So
but now he hits Striker.
Hits on the first bot.
Attack.
So 12 points in the first, and that
There
is
it is.
game right there on the second shot. So a
double teleport
quick double teleport win
plus
against
the Warpath.
Epic Striker and a Warpath, and this
Yep.
game is all wrapped up for our first round.
And that's one of the real strengths of Circle is seeing that mobility in action.
Yeah, it's difficult to kind of predict at times, especially when you're not looking for it, and to see those things just zip, say, 16 inches up the table for Colin to take the win with an assassination against Lord Commander Striker. So our next round will be beginning in a little bit, but we also have some special stuff to show off here, and we'll be coming right back after that to do the special presentation, and I'm going to be showing everyone what's in the inconspicuous box that I tweeted out last week when we talked about on Primecast. So we'll be right back with that here in a few minutes.
All right, so I'm DC, and this is Will, and we're signing off for the moment, but we'll see you again soon.
Be right back. Thank you.